Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to Disc Golf Chat. Part of this one is part of our 25 days of disc golf, which just happened to work out great. And we're here with the one, the only, Big Jerm. What's going on, my man?
What's going on, Daryl? How you doing today?
It's a good day. I don't know if you remember meeting me. You met me twice.
Okay.
Once at the World Championship here in Lynchburg. They were having a long drive competition. I got a picture with you,
Okay.
and you were like 2 feet taller than me. And
You're
I was
4 foot. You're 4'6". I don't remember
yes,
that.
yes,
Wow.
yes. Okay, 5'6", but whatever. It felt like I swear I felt like I was standing in a hole.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah. Uh, which and the other time was this past year. Well, actually, this year at USDGC, and I was getting a picture. I was like, man, I hope we get in the same picture. And you said, well, it's because I'm tall. I was like, no, it's because I'm short.
Okay. So yeah, I do come across a lot of people. I do take a lot of selfies, and I
Mhm.
love all of them. And occasionally, I will remember those interactions, and specifically when someone says something funny like that, then I remember. So yes, of course, I remember you, Daryl. We've run into each other a couple times.
Yes, and a few more times in this next coming year, which is going to be awesome.
Yep.
Um, let's get going with where it begins. First off, congratulations on two things. One, future dad. How exciting is that? And maybe nervous as well.
Yeah, yeah, you nailed it. It is exciting. Still very early on,
Mm-hmm.
and Jules and I are just really happy that the sonogram that we went to this time actually showed a baby with a heartbeat. Um, we had
Yes.
um, we had the other situation happen last year, and so that was very difficult to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Jules is just about 10 weeks right now, so we're still pretty early on, but we're actually getting pretty close to our next appointment where we will be able to see the baby again and then also do some blood work to find out what the gender is because
Oh.
she has been trying to come up with the name of this baby nonstop. And so we've got boy and girl names right now lined up, but we don't have anything solidified. So it'd be fun to know what that's going to be and to start planning that way.
Daryl actually works for boys and girls.
Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Daryl
yeah,
Hannah.
it does. It
Daryl
does.
Hannah was a great
Yeah.
actress.
Yep. Daryl Strawberry
Daryl
was a
Strawberry.
great outfielder.
Yep. I actually saw him play here in Lynchburg back in like 1981 or
Wow.
1980, something like that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
old.
There you go.
So, yeah. And congratulations, number two. And I know I'm going to say this wrong, but I'm going to say it the way I want to say it. Congratulations on winning the Player Championship, Player Open. You are the king player.
I thought you were going to struggle to say Puerto Rico, but you the Playa Lucia Open, yes. The Playa. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, it looks
Thank
like
you.
player to me.
Yeah. Well, there were some good players down there.
Oh, there was.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, the couple of the guys in Puerto Rico have been messaging me for the last couple of years, and with the addition of GoThrow going down there and some friends of mine going down there, it just really seemed like a great excuse to go to Puerto Rico when the weather is getting colder up here in the continental, and yeah, I mean it was hot. It was very humid. The sun was out, but it was very tropical as well. It was very. We went to the rainforest one day and saw some endemic bird species, which is something that I'm really fond of doing. And then got to play disc golf and hang out with friends and go boogie board in the ocean and grab some fresh seafood. It was a fantastic week.
Yeah, one of my friends was playing. That's actually how I knew about it. And I was like, and I watched the coverage. I was like, man, that looks pretty doggone awesome. Minus
Yeah, I
the
mean,
wind.
no, that was what made that course. That I
Mhm.
typically the wind is a frustrating element to deal with. But I mean,
Mhm.
we are one of our transitions from hole 5 to hole 6. You literally walk down the beach, and I was telling players every time we were making that transition, make sure that some ocean water hits your shoe because not many people ever in the history of disc golf have said that on my transition to another hole, I got into the ocean. Like, that's just not something you get the opportunity to do very often. So it's something I did once in Thailand in 2018 and got to do it again here in Puerto Rico in 2025. So beautiful. The course is relatively short, but the wind is really what made that course difficult. If it was a calm tournament, then I think it would have been like everybody would have been shooting double digits, and maybe that would be better for drama, I suppose. But I think knowing that every single putt you step up to is very difficult because the wind gave that course a little bit of teeth, even though it was relatively kind of easy on the easier side, shorter side at least.
Yeah, it looked like a fun place to be. I know there was one hole in particular. It was a straight little tonal shot, and you had a sidewalk going all the way to the basket. And I saw some people basically almost skipping it all the way there. I was like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, fun holes like that, it just, especially with the wind, like a straight shot is already a difficult thing to throw. But when you introduce a strong crosswind like we had there on hole 7 through this double mandatory, it definitely made the hole seem a little bit smaller. You have less room to work left and right. And so picking the right disc, knowing whether I should go overstable or understable really depends on if you're going forehand or backhand and which direction the wind's coming, and all those things really play tricks on the thrower, and it makes it interesting.
Okay, now to the beef here. How did you get started in disc golf? Were you an athlete or anything prior to disc golf? I mean, being tall, everyone's going to assume basketball, but how did your early time go?
Man, we're going way back. Okay, so I mean, this is the story you got to ask for this. The origin story is the best story in disc golf for every player. So I started playing disc golf in 2006. I was coming home from my second year in college at Appalachian State, where I played recreationally, but I was technically on the club ultimate Frisbee team. The team was practicing 4 nights a week for 2 hours a night. And I just didn't have the time to commit to that much when I had my hand involved in so many other recreational activities. So I played sparingly, but I did play a ton of catch. I mean, I was throwing the Frisbee almost every single day. So at that time, Frisbee was right at the top of my interests. I didn't know what disc golf was until the end of my second year, when we started throwing Frisbees around campus, and we started making holes. And we started playing our own version of campus Frisbee golf. And I was falling in love with the concept of it. It was bridging this idea of catch and flight and throwing a Frisbee, which is something that I was very, very fond of, with this idea of an individual sport. And to answer your other question, I had only played team sports. And yes, I do consider myself, I was quite an athlete back then. So I would have been 19 years old, maybe just about to turn 20. And I was playing club basketball, like intramural basketball at the top level. I had considered trying to walk on to the Appalachian State basketball team. My collegiate athleticism was at the top. I wasn't disciplined enough to wake up at 5 a.m. for wind sprints and all that. So I opted to take a more recreational approach to college, even though I felt like I definitely had it in me to play college basketball. And it was something that I was doing 8 days a week. Like, I was in the gym every single day playing basketball. And my high school team in my senior year was number 3 in the state in 4A. And so that's a pretty big deal. So I had a very competitive background as well. Like, I was a soccer player from the age 7 all the way up until when I started playing basketball and taking that seriously in my sophomore year in high school. So I played sports, and it was my only identity, really. I always thought that I would be an athlete of some kind. And when I decided to opt out of trying to pursue college basketball, I felt like the dream of playing a sport professionally kind of ended there. And then fast forward a few years, I found ultimate Frisbee, and then that led into disc golf. And then, it wasn't really initially like this click, like I'm going to be a professional disc golfer. But the very first round of disc golf that I played was in Charlotte. I went out with a couple of friends to Renaissance Park in Charlotte, North Carolina, a course that is famous for being incredibly difficult. I don't know what the heck we were doing. There's so many courses in Charlotte. If someone had done a little bit of research, maybe we would have played a hole 18, because we only got through 14 holes before every one of the 6 of us lost all the discs that we came there with. Except I found a Ching rock. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I found a tournament stamped rock. I kept it, and that became my first disc. And I was the only person to leave the course with a disc that day. And I just remember leaving there with this feeling of like, I don't know what that was, but I can't wait to do it again. Like, that was incredible. And it brought together this competitive spirit, this playing a sport where I'm the only person that's accountable for what's happening. I was good right from the get-go, which helped. The first throw that I had was right out the gap of this tough tee shot, hole 1 at Renaissance Original. It has a very narrow bamboo shoot hallway, and I was the only person to get through the gap. And it's the first time throwing a golf disc. And all my friends looked at me like, dude, you've done this before. And I was like, I just play a lot of catch, man. I don't know what's going on here. And, but like early on, I could tell like this was for me. This was something that I was really, really interested in. And so the rest of that summer, I pursued disc golf in a way that I don't think I've ever pursued any summer since. Like I was at the course, you know, every single day of the week, rain, shine, or other. I mean, it was just like I was addicted.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite course down there now in Charlotte area?
That's a hard question to answer because there's so many different styles.
There is so many down there.
You know, I don't think that we have many true championship style courses with Hornets Nest, Nevin, and Angry Beaver, and Renaissance Gold. And you could even argue Bradford is perhaps professional, challenging at that level. But we don't have any like championship style courses that are like more open. So all the courses that we have are like all wooded. So that's the first thing you have to take into account when you're coming to Charlotte, is that you're just coming for a battle against the woods. So basically, do I want to get my butt whooped, or do I want to have a fun, relaxing day, or do I want to get a lot of birdies? Like that's what I have to decide before I go out and play a course. So like what my favorite course in the area is dictated by how I'm feeling that day. I would say over the course of the past 20 years, I would say Hornets Nest has routinely been my favorite place to play. I've had eras where Renaissance Gold was like it's all I wanted to play. And so Renaissance Gold has been at the top of the list. I initially didn't really like Nevin that much, but Nevin grew on me a lot over the years. And that's always been, for the last 15 years, well, actually it hasn't even been in the ground for 15 years, but for the last 10 years, it's been one of my favorite to play in Charlotte for sure. But then there's courses like, you don't want to sleep on like the classics. Like Kilbourne is a fantastic course that you could get 2 rounds in and just have a really great time. And it has a real cool like counterculture. The people that go play Kilbourne like almost just play Kilbourne. And it has a draw to that course in that way. And it's really close to another round. So if you want to make an afternoon by going to the store and, getting a disc and then going over to Kilbourne, you can make a nice little afternoon doing that. So I don't really have a favorite per se, but I'm just happy that there's so many options.
Yeah. My favorite down there is Scrapyard. Absolutely love playing that.
That's another great course. Yeah. That's where you're going to see Joe Phillips throw that across the water shot.
Yeah. Yep. Was that hole 8?
Yeah. Hole 8 and hole 9 are both water shots. And he's doing his best to make that the most famous hole in disc golf.
He's becoming pretty successful at that. I mean, right there with what's that hole in Europe? Down the hill, the gates.
Oh, the Gates of Valhalla. Yeah. Well,
that's pretty popular.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even in the same book in terms of aesthetic beauty or challenge, but yeah, just in terms of views, I mean, hole 8 of Scrapyard's hanging in there. But
I love that.
Gates of Valhalla. I mean, what a fantastic hole that is.
I mean, when I played Scrapyard, I'm just like, I just can't wait to get to that hole.
Yeah, it's definitely it's become a staple for Charlotte, and that course that's another great course. To your point, it's like kind of in that Kilbourne range of difficulty, where you can go and just have a great day. And I gotta give a little shout out to like Eastway. Like if you want to play a fairly short course, my buddy David Weaver designed just a fantastic course at Eastway Park, a course that used to have a completely unique 18-hole course. And then some things happened. They had to change. They had to do some work at the park. And then we were given access to design a course there again. David Weaver took the project on, and just when the course opened, it looked like it had been played in for years because he had taken so much time and effort into clearing the fairways and making the holes playable. And anyways, that's just a fun place to play as well. There's just so many good choices in Charlotte.
See, I haven't played that one yet. I play Wing It, which I really enjoyed because I'm short. I play MA4. So, there you go. Kilbourne, I really enjoyed. Gosh, what was that other one I played?
Sugar Creek, Reedy Creek.
I've not played that one yet.
Okay.
That one's right there near the store too, isn't it?
You could play. I don't know which one's close. Well, Eastway is probably the closest course to another round, and then Kilbourne, and then Sugar. But they're all within tops 5 minutes. They're all. I mean, and that's the way Charlotte is. If you live in like uptown Charlotte, your choices of where you're going to go for the afternoon, you might as well get one of those like randomizers and just put all the courses on it, spin the wheel, and then just go play wherever it lands, because you're not going to have to drive more than 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah, Reedy Park was the other one that I played in the tournament, which I really enjoyed. That again, for short noodle arms like me, courses like that are just gold, and I loved it.
It's the glue of our sport. I don't think many people would find disc golf appealing, even at the pro level, if the first course they had to play was a course that wasn't achievable. The birdies weren't fun, or so like you need courses like that to pull you in. That's like a gateway course. That's a course that gets you started and gets you that bug, and
that's right.
Get some birdies underneath your belt, and then all of a sudden maybe you're like, I want a bigger challenge. Then you upgrade. But the short courses through the woods, that's something that like I took for granted by growing up in Charlotte and having those courses accessible to me when I started playing when I was 20 years old. And then I realized like, oh my gosh, like, as I traveled more and saw the courses that other places had, I was like, wow, we really have it so incredibly good here in Charlotte.
Yeah. And because of Paul Macbeth here in Lynchburg, it has just exploded around here. I mean, basically, when I first started playing, well, in 2007, I played like 10 rounds. I played at Peaksview Park, this tiny little course.
Okay.
And if you watch Foundation, you've seen it 1,000 times on their channel. But hole 10 slanted down to this little pond. Over 10 rounds, I think I lost 7 discs in that little pond. I was like, this is the dumbest game ever. I'm never playing again. Years later, I'm back playing, and the second course I played was New London Tech. Mistaken life.
That place is brutal, man. That's one of the hardest courses, especially with the redesign. That place is it takes a visionary like Macbeth to see a property like that and know how to utilize the woods in a way that would make players say, this is the hardest course I've ever played, but also respect it in the way that it's attackable. The shots are there. It just requires every single bit of your precision and distance combined. I mean, that's a top tier track.
Did you like the original course better than the newer course?
I didn't get a chance to play the newer course. I did go up to do the commentary for the Pro Tour Championships this year, but I didn't play them because I don't think I was feeling well at the time. And so I didn't actually see the course, but the original course that I played, I thought was sufficiently challenging already. And so to hear the players kind of in unison, I'll say that was the hardest course they've ever played, considering that we had just played the Monster in Finland earlier this summer. To me, that was a testament of like, goodness gracious, they've done some serious work out there. And doing commentary, I could see how challenging it was, but still, the top level play in our sport is so good that they can take a course like that and still turn it into a course that they're expecting to get a lot of birdies and somehow are still avoiding the bogeys. It makes me want to play more tournaments like Puerto Rico and play Masters more and more. Every single time I watch coverage, I'm just like, goodness, it's so hard to keep up with these guys these days.
Do you, when you're on the Pro Tour, you see the men and women day in or week in, week out. Do you ever just sit there and you get numb to how good they are? Because players like me, and I hear people going, the courses are just too easy for them. I'm like, no, they're
No,
not. The
no.
players are just that good.
Yeah, course design is obviously a very controversial hot topic. People
Mhm.
want to make courses harder and harder and harder, and I get that because we have this expectation, I guess, to the relationship of golf, and we want to make scores close to par. And I guess that provides more interesting drama to see people struggle. I think the courses are at a sufficient difficulty as is. Maybe there's a part of me that's old school in that way, where I'm connected to the version of disc golf where there was a lot more birdie centric and rewarding longer streaks of birdies as opposed to just like hang in there, which is kind of how it feels like it's being challenged today. But yeah, I think that um, I think that I am, yeah, definitely jaded by the talent. It gets you to the place where, as a commentator, like when I started doing commentary in 2017, the event that I started doing commentary at was a tournament that I was later going on to win, which was the Waco Annual
Mhm.
Charity Open, and that's what they asked me to do commentary because I was in the mix, and I just went on to win the tournament, and then I just started doing commentary because I felt like I was kind of naturally fit for it,
Mhm.
and then like over time, like my focus was kind of divided away from being a top player, and you can see a very clear gradual decline as I'm just watching the best players attack the courses, and I'm just like, oh my god, how can I compete with these guys, versus more emphasis on commentary. So there's just this like
Mhm.
two different graphs going two different directions. Or and so anyways, I think that it's definitely been very intimidating for me over time because I'm just like, all I see are the top players and the top card doing what those guys do, which is just birdie everything. And so
Mhm.
you kind of come to expect it. And when you don't perform that way on the course yourself, you find yourself in this like mindset of like, well, guess I'm not competitive anymore, and it's not necessarily that beneficial for a player to have that mindset. But I mean, I'm just being compounded with
Mhm.
greatness every single time I step into the booth.
I was talking to Juliana Corver, and she said back when in the late '90s when she won, I think it was like 114 out of 119 tournaments, some ridiculous number like that.
Is that
And
real?
yes,
Is that number real? I've never
that
heard
is
that
real.
number before.
Yeah, well, according to the internet, which never lies, and I asked her about it, and I said, "What were you thinking in those 5 events that you lost?" She's like, "I don't know what happened. I finished second in all 5 of them." I mean, but then she said later on she start questioning herself. Like when
Hmm.
she came back, she's just like, "Well, I don't have that confidence. Like I can compete anymore, and it's so difficult to even play under that." Do you find it difficult to just go out there now? And I hope the answer is no. I hope the answer is you find you love being there every week.
No, I don't. I don't. I wish I wish that was my answer too, but
Mhm.
it's not. I love the sport. I love it
Mhm.
more than anything I've ever loved in this life. To me, I'm connected to it in a way. Like, I know it sounds maybe heartless. I'm married to the love of my life, but like the way that I have committed my life, I've literally put half of my life. I've put 20 years as a 40-year-old adult into this thing, and I know the ins and outs of it more than I know anything else. Like I know myself and I know the sport of disc golf, and everything else is way down that chart. That being said, I don't want to go play disc golf sometimes. Sometimes I do. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'm very excited, but that ebbs and flows throughout my career. I think anytime you take something that you're passionate about and you turn it into a career, you turn this thing into a completely different animal than what
Yep.
it was when it started. And I think that's a very normal thing. And
Mhm.
so I think, when you are in a position where you're going into the final round, um, it's the eighth tournament in a row where you're out of position. You're more than likely not going to cash unless you play the best round of your life. So you're playing this last round knowing that you're doing it essentially for nothing. And, some people might get a kick out of just going out there and getting more experience. But when you're in year 20,
Mhm.
what is that experience actually providing me? Like, what am I doing out there, going out there for this another round? Um, and sometimes you can answer that question with a really positive mindset and just say, man, I'm so lucky that my job is to suck at disc golf sometimes and then talk about it. And that's a great mindset to have, because then you can go out there and appreciate this thing that almost anyone that I know that follows the sport would trade positions with me in a second. And it's not to complain about my position. I recognize how lucky I am and how privileged my position has, what it's given me. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But that doesn't mean that every single time there's a round of disc golf, I'm just so eager to go out there and play.
Mm-hmm.
It is a grind. It's tough. It's mentally challenging. It's physically even more challenging. And it becomes monotonous when you're not actually in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you're in the mix to cash, or when you're in the mix to have a good finish, or even better, if you're in the mix to be on coverage or even win, that's a completely different psychological state. There's something very special about that. And that opportunity, that potential opportunity that exists every single hole one at every single tournament you ever play, is the reason I still go back and play, because I love that more than anything. To perform in front of people and to perform well and to throw shots that make people go ooh and ah, and then remind you like, wow, I'm actually like, I am really good at this thing, is the best feeling in the world. On the other side of that, to go out there, play in front of no one, think, man, do I stink at this? And then throw shots that solidify your argument that maybe you do stink at it, is the worst thing in the world. So it tears you apart with emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Players come and go every year for good reason. It's just not a very sustainable career choice unless you are one of those top guys. Or unless you find an alternative means of providing for yourself, because the money on the road isn't good unless you are kicking some absolute tail.
See, that's one thing I was wondering as well, is when you first got going, at what point did you say, I am good enough to be on tour?
Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning.
Yeah, I know I'm bouncing all over the career.
No, we're good.
I'm sorry.
No, we're good. We're good. Now, my way of answering that is to say that my very first rating in the sport was 968. So from and I started playing PDJ tournaments within a year of me learning what the game was. So I was an advanced level because of my athleticism and my love for the sport very early on. I was addicted. You know, there was days where I was playing 4 to 6 rounds of disc golf because I had nothing else to do. And I was just obsessed with it. So when I started playing tournaments, I was already at a competitive level. And I would say before I even knew that there was a Hall of Fame, my goals were to make it into a disc golf Hall of Fame if it even existed. Because it wasn't, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a far-fetched goal when you don't even know that it exists and you haven't even started playing tournaments yet. But I knew that it connected with me so much and my abilities were so raw and natural at the very beginning that I saw a future in it. And I didn't know exactly what roads that would take. I mean, no one does when they start. But, and I certainly never saw commentary as my, the glue that kept me in the sport well past my prime years of playing. But I knew early on that I was really good at this. I knew that I was competing with people in Charlotte that had been playing for a decade or more within 4 or 5 months of playing. And so I knew that on my advanced track, I was set to be pretty good at this sport before too long. So I started in May 2006. That was the month that I started. And then I went to the Amateur World Championships in August of 2008, and I won by 12. So winning Am Worlds within 2 years, with a year of that gone because I was actually in college and a summer school. I was in summer school for another semester as well. So that actually reduced my actual playing time to about a year. And in a year's time, I had proven that I was the best amateur by double-digit margin. So I knew I was poised to being a good professional. And so that it became my goal. You know, when I saw what level I was at early on, it became my goal to figure out a way to transition my career into being on the road and doing it full time.
Wow. That's crazy progression. Did you have any of the pro players that you looked up to before you actually got on tour? Or did any of them kind of give you advice, maybe somewhat mentoring?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very lucky to have started competing in the North Carolina area. So I had a lot of huge mentors in the sport. Locally, Stan McDaniel, famed course designer and three-time Masters Hall of Famer, or Masters World Champion and Disc Golf Hall of Famer. Um, he was kind of like a father figure to me. He's actually 7 days older than my dad, so he's my dad's age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was somebody that I met on the course randomly one day. Before I'd even really started like competing locally, I ran into him and a few other guys that I recognized, but obviously they didn't know who I was. And after they were done playing like 5 or 6 holes, I had to go meet up with a friend. Stan gave me a disc, and that meant the world to me that somebody would just give me a frisbee, because at that time I probably had like 30 discs in my name. And so he became a mentor to me early on, and he took me under his wing and gave me a lot of advice. But that was more of like mental advice and like just like career advice and stuff like that. And just kind of seeing the way that he was respected around the community, like gave me a lot of encouragement to pay attention to what he said and understand his design philosophy, which helped me as a player trying to figure out how to break down tough holes. But as players go, Michael Johansson and Brian Schweberger are top players in North Carolina, absolute legends. Um, Perhaps the top two pros ever in North Carolina. And so watching them play and getting some advice from them, and just like kind of just watching them and just absorbing and just trying to understand what it looked like to be a good professional was something I had right in front of me with those guys. I came up in the sport on the professional side with David Wiggins, even though he was 10 years younger than me. So he was like 12 years old when we first played pro together.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was actually with him when he won his first pro tournament when he was 13 years old.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so playing with David Wiggins, obviously he was like supposed to be the next Ken Climo. He was the
Mm-hmm.
protege, and everyone knew who he was. And he was obviously breaking distance records as a young kid. And so there was a lot of people for me to like absorb information from and watch and get inspired by. But the one thing that I always had that was unique was the approach to the game being forehand centric. Like that was something that I didn't really have anyone to watch for that. And I was kind of creating something new before the sport became, I don't want to say overrun, but maybe overrun. But everyone has to have a forehand to be competitive in the top level these days. And at that time, I I was really the only guy on the East Coast. I know Nate Sexton was doing a very similar thing at the same timeline
Mm-hmm.
out in Oregon, but no one was really doing that over here. So it was kind of fun that even though I was watching these players and absorbing a lot from them, I was also kind of creating my own thing with my own way when everyone was pretty much all back in at that time.
Was the forehand based on Ultimate? Is that how that started? Or
Yeah, it was based on a lot of things. I think I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, when I was 7 to I was a freshman in high school when I moved back to Charlotte. But so in between, basically all of elementary and middle school, I was in Chapel Hill, and at that time I lived next to a pond, and we had a gravel road, and that's important because I learned how to skip rocks religiously. I was very good at it, and
yep.
the motion for skipping a rock is all about feeling the weight of the rock, the shape of the rock, how it's going to spin. Do you get it down in the water early, or do you get more distance before it hits the water? And then, you find out that some rocks need to be thrown at this angle versus this angle. And the little tiny micro adjustments that you'd make
Mm-hmm.
would affect how well it would skip. And it's something that, I didn't have a ton of other things to do in the neighborhood. There was a few kids that would want to hang out, but if there wasn't kids hanging out, I was making my own fun. And that was one of the things I used to do. And so I think that the forehand, understanding and the natural nature of my forehand and how it appears effortless to people comes from a lot of that. And that later progressed to like when I'd play table tennis. I was a very forehand dominant guy, and backhand didn't really make much sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would play catch with a football, it was kind of off to the side a little bit. It was never like the tight over the shoulder throw that you're taught as a football player, but it was kind of off to the side. And so all the things that I did athletically when I was throwing things was all using this kind of forehand motion. And so it was a very familiar thing to me. So when I started playing Frisbee and I started playing catch, and ultimate Frisbee specifically, I was flick, 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 flick everything. And in Ultimate, there's a defense that there. It's called force flick, and so they block the backhand side to open up the flick. And so like it was great for me because people would employ that defense on me, and I'd try to fake like I was going to throw a backhand, even though I never would. But they didn't know who I was, so I'd fake it and then switch to the forehand. And anyways, I had a lot of open passes that way because that was my predominant throw. When I started playing disc golf, I wanted to make a disc go left because that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found I had to make up ways to take like a Roadrunner or something super understable and throw it with hyzer so that it would go out to the right, but then finish left. And then I had to figure out at what angle and how hard to throw and how much spin and torque and all those things to get disc to turn a certain amount left at a certain distance, and how hard left, and how hard do I have to throw it so that it doesn't roll back to the right, and all those little micro nuances that just came with my obsession. And the fact that I was also very one-sided and did not like throwing backhands at the time. So I taught myself how to do everything very one-dimensionally. And it wasn't for years before I realized, oh yeah, I'm gonna need to be well-rounded if I want to be competitive.
I gotta say this right quick. My friend Chris, me and him play all the time. He's working on a forehand, and I told him just the other day, "Have you tried to skip rocks?"
No way.
And I wonder if he thought I was joking when I said it. I'm like, no, it's skipping rocks. So
Yeah,
I told him that just the other day.
It's a tough thing to like, the whole adage, like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. When I do clinics, I do try to teach people things they can do right then and there, and over the next couple of weeks or months or however long they want to work on this to progress in that ability. But there's a lot of things that are like hard to change your body's mechanics around once you're in your late 30s or if you're in your 40s or older, because like that motion came from literal years and thousands of throws when I was a kid, getting that mechanic perfect. And so I think definitely throwing rocks and like being really aware of skipping rocks, not just throwing rocks, but skipping rocks in water. Being aware of how this angle versus this angle or whatever you're doing, being aware of that really can help you translate those little tiny nuances into throwing a hex versus a tempo or a reactor. If you're throwing forehands with like mid ranges, you can start getting a sense of the differences and stabilities just by being in tune with those little tiny angles that you're making, just kind of almost subconsciously.
Yeah, my biggest issue with my forehand, I'm forehand dominant, and I'm trying to focus hard on my backhand. But my forehand, the biggest issue I have is that tiny little nose up that I'll get. And it'll go out there and just kind of lift and just crash. I'm like, but when I get it nice and straight, oh, it's a thing of beauty.
Nothing better, man. I think my favorite shot in the game is still the big high Anheuser backhand with a mid range that just floats endlessly, almost sideways. And it's not a shot that I throw in tournaments hardly ever. But when I see other players do it, if they do it well, I will just stand there in amazement, just watching the thing just move sideways and just be like, that's what it's all about. That's just the beauty of flight personified to me. I think that's the best shot in the game. But that being said, throwing a good flip up straight shot and having control over that and having some sort of command over that is a very powerful feeling in our sport as well. And they're equally beautiful. They're beautiful in different ways, but they are both very beautiful things to see.
Okay, I've got a comment here because this will kind of transition into Europe. Christian from Hamburg, have you ever been to Germany and played in Germany?
No, I have not. My travels have not taken me through Germany yet. I have only been in a couple of places in mainland Europe. If you consider Estonia mainland, I guess it kind of is because it's connected, but I consider it a Baltic state. I've just been to Spain and Portugal, and England's even an islands, but no, I haven't spent much time in like, I haven't been to France, I've been to Germany, Italy, Greece, or any of those countries. But I really want to, as much as I've traveled. it's kind of crazy that I haven't actually spent time really gallivanting around those countries yet. But it is a goal of mine, and I want to, big time.
Gallivanting, that's one of my words too.
Yeah, it's a good word.
What is like one of the biggest differences between European disc golf and American disc golf, whether it be fans, courses, just the way they play?
All of those things. All of those things. So the courses are, I would say, with the exception of the Estonia tournament in Tallinn, the course there,
Mm-hmm.
the Song Grounds Festival is so short, and you saw Calvin Heinberg just go insane. Multiple
Mm-hmm.
rounds shot at 15 under. I think there was maybe Macbeth even shot a 16 under one round.
Yep.
That course wasn't well received because that's not what players are used to. I would say, with the exception of that course, every time we play either a major or a Disc Golf Pro Tour event, a Disc Golf Pro Tour Europe event, every single time we play a course over there, there's hardly any notes because the courses are so well thought out and they're so fun and challenging, and they have a different landscape than what we're used to. The birch trees are a lot more implemented, and obviously they just have a ton of birch forests over there, really beautiful white bark trees, and the undulations and the elevation of the holes and the incorporation of water and all that. I could play a hole blind. If you just randomly put me in a daze and woke me up and you just had me in some random place in the world and I got to play 2 or 3 holes, I could tell you if it was a European hole or a hole in America, just based on the smells, looks, feels, and the way that the landscape is and all that. It's a very signature European thing. It's hard to put the right words on it because it's just a very different ecosystem for courses over there in general. The land is just, they have different types of land. They have different access to land with the history of Europe versus America and so on. So that's a big difference for sure, the courses. And let me also go on the record and finish that statement by saying, I actually do like the Song Festival grounds. I think it's very fun. It is a little bit quirky in that you're going over a lot of sidewalks and there's some road involved and it's very public area, but that tournament is top notch because of everything they do to make that place feel very sacred. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually really do like that course a lot, but it just doesn't get the same love amongst the entirety of the field because it's just a little too easy for where the sport's going. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I digress. The
I
fans.
talked to. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the fans they're just different. They're more there's an understanding of applause that comes with shots and situations. There's maybe an appreciation that they don't get to see the top players in the world that often, so they really make a point to go out there and travel and go see and make it a family event. And it's not to say that we don't do that in America, because we do, but I think that it's more it's just more on par with the culture of sports and sports appreciation in Europe than it is in
Mm-hmm.
America. We put a lot of emphasis and focus on like the big 5 sports over here in the States, and in Europe, specifically in Scandinavia, where I've spent the most time in Europe, they like to be a little bit more well-rounded in as far as it goes with all sports. If you appreciate a sport and you put your time and attention and focus into it, there's more awareness of that and appreciation and respect for your craft and your skill. And so the appreciation that comes from that just feels more wholesome. It feels louder. It feels more seen. Something about it is just more special. And the players are different as well. Like you said courses, you said fans, and you said players, and all 3 of those things are the 3 biggest differences. The playing style is different over there. And before Simon and Nikola started winning tournaments over here, we really hadn't ever had a European winner on tour. And those are 2 very special players. But I also think that it lends itself to Americans having a little bit more ego about sports. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that translates very well in a sport like disc golf when you can, as you said earlier, can start questioning yourself And Julianne Korver started questioning herself. When I started making disc golf not my top priority, I started questioning myself, and I was no longer on league cards going into final rounds because I didn't have that belief in myself. But that is something that Americans have in droves over the world. I think it's the number one thing that we have an advantage on, and I think it helps us with putting. I think it helps us coming down the stretch in tough situations. So I think that's probably the biggest differences between players in the States versus players in Europe. Although the players in Europe are some of the best throwers of the disc I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some incredible putters too. It's just putting it all together is something that we just have done a little bit better. And I do think our time is numbered. Our days are numbered. Our years are numbered. However long it's going to be. I think it won't be long before the European domination takes effect.
I mean, we're already seeing it on the FPO side.
Yes, correct. To be fair, the FPO has already translated to that. You're 100% right.
And then the MPO side, we see more and more coming. I had Albert Tom on, and he gave me the history of the European event in Estonia. That whole the grounds there. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, that's so awesome.
That's where we met. I played with Albert Tom for the first time when he was an up and coming player, and everyone was talking about this former badminton player that had all this power. And I played with him, and I could tell he was so nervous. And the poor guy missed so many short putts. But man, when he threw the disc, you couldn't stop, but you couldn't help yourself but stopping and being like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
He always had that little extra pop.
Yeah, I mean, I told him, I was like, I just want to see you hit some of those putts, hit a throw in, do the drop down to one knee. He's like,
you know where that occurred? You know where that developed?
No.
So third round European Open, I want to say 20. Oh gosh, maybe 2021. Whenever we started going back to Europe, I am on chase card with Albert, and we're on hole 9, and he makes like a 60-footer, and we don't really, even though it's chase card, we don't have that many people following us because everyone's following the lead card because I think Macbeth and anyways, there's a great battle going on elsewhere. And so, but this is third round. This is moving day. Chase card. Albert Tam drops down to a knee, hits the bazooka, and like 50 people saw it. He played a great round, jumped up to lead card, final round. He's in the same spot he was in the day before, and he makes the same putt. And once again, drops down to the knee, hits the bazooka, and this time thousands upon thousands of people saw it. And it instantly was a hit, and we started calling him bazooka right there on the spot with commentary, and it was just like, yeah, it's just how legends are born. You do something in the right moment, and you get the right people see it. But yeah, that was the origin of the bazooka story.
Okay, since we mentioned that nicknames, because I want to talk about Big Jerm. I mean, no one. I mean, how many people really call you Jeremy now? Everybody's a Big Jerm.
My wife.
Oh yeah, like people like me.
Not many people. Not. I don't take note of it, but I feel like it's actually something that I should be aware of. Like, how many people are actually using my name? I would say it's got to be less than 10% of people that say Jeremy. But Paige Pierce, for fun, started calling me Big Jeremy for a while. And then some people just, it's just Jerm to others. That all started in college as well. That was before I even started playing disc golf. I was in a dorm room, and the guys across the hall, the guys next to me, and the guys diagonally, there was 3 different rooms, and they were all really tight, close buddies. Every time they saw me, what up, big perm? What up, big worm? What up, big slurm? Whatever. Anything that rhymed with Jerm. And what up, big Jerm sometimes too. It's a reference from the movie Friday. And it just stuck. I mean, if I saw them on campus, if I saw them at 3 a.m, if I saw them in class, if I saw them at the gym, each one of the 6 of them, every single time hit me with that. And I had always I'd always like kind of despised people saying Jeremy. Like when you grow up, people don't say Jeremy, they say Jeremy. And so that was the first time that I had embraced the Jerm aspect of my name. And it was fun to be recognized by something and have a nickname. And so that actually came with me into disc golf. I was already Big Jerm before there was a Big Jerm disc golf enterprise. It was something that just has been with me since probably as 18 years old.
All right. Well, who's got the best nickname? Because I think McBeast is pretty awesome.
McBeast
Bazooka.
Bazooka's good.
The Champ. For Climo. I mean, that's awesome.
That's a good
Chainsaw.
one.
Chainsaw for Cadence just come up. I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's a good nickname. It's going to need some
Big
years.
Money Missy.
Big Money Missy might be at the top just because it just is true, man. Something about the stakes being higher, the payout being bigger. She steps up and earns that nickname time and time again. But Champ, I mean, just be known as Champ. To be so good that somebody else could be so good that their nickname was the other Champ in Barry Schultz. Like, like that's got to be the worst nickname, is the other Champ. But
it's like a compliment and a slap in the face at the same time.
I was partial to Saki Bomb for years because I was with him in Rochester, New York when that nickname came to be, and kind of helped promote it. And then I designed his logo, which the Saki Bomb chevron logo that a lot of people are familiar with. He actually doesn't use that anymore. I think Saki Bomb will be a part of him forever, in the same way that I've co-branded Big Jerm with Lionheart. So now I'm like, Lionheart was this name that I had when I was a kid. And so I'll always be Big Jerm, even though I'm also Lionheart. So he's now really embraced the whole Raptor thing. And but yeah, man, there's some good nicknames in our sport. You know, Matt Orum's name is Matt Orum. It's not Matty-O. Matty-O is a nickname, and it's just, but no one calls him, hey, Matt. Like, it doesn't, I can't even, it's just so it's just the way it is. He is Matty-O.
Yeah, I met him at World, and that's all I was doing was, hey, Matty-O.
Yeah. KJ USA rolls off the tongue. It's a fun one. But there's some good ones. I can't necessarily say that I think anything beats Champ or Big Money Missy. I think those are probably two of the best.
Wow. So I'm still
what are your favorites?
Beast. Big Beast for me, just because he lived here for a long time. And I actually saw him on the course once. I was like, doggone it. And then he moved. I thought that was really, really cool.
He wanted me to work on this this project where McBeast, so like you can put you can replace a 3 for the E. So for 3-time world champion, and then you could turn the 4 into an A for 4-time world champion, or you can change the S to a 5 for 5-time world champion, or you could make the B in McBeast a 6.
4-time world championship.
There you go. So he wanted me to work on this whole number system where every world championship he got, there was a new way of writing McBeast that incorporated the number of world championships he had won. And we got all the way up to his ultimate goal, where there was a 1 in front of a 3 to make the B for McBeast for 13, because he wants to win more world titles than anyone. So like, yeah, Beast is it's a dynamic nickname. And as somebody who got to witness him first row for his entire career go beast mode activated, as UC famously said, you know, it is a very fitting nickname, and yeah, it works for him very well.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. If you took some of the GOATs out of that, let's say they never played disc golf, who would be some people that would have really their game? Everybody would know who they are even more than we already know. Let's say like Paul and Ricky, they weren't there. Champ, he wasn't there. Juliana, Paige, and Katrina.
Okay,
you know, who are the ones that should have won world champion, or maybe should have won more world champions?
Um, I think Brad Hammock would be a world champion. I think Dave Greenwell would have won some open world championships. He won plenty of
Mhm.
age protected ones and doubles, but he never got the open world championship. I think Scott Stokely would have won some world championships in the 90s.
Mhm.
Classic players like Ron Russell may have won a couple. Maybe Jesper Lundmark or Marcus Schallstrom from Europe, both Swedish players that were really good in the late 90s, early 2000s. Then on the FPO side, the classics, you would have had Des Redding would have won more. I think she won 2 world titles, but she would have won more.
Mhm.
I think Angela Chigfry, perhaps, Carrie Burlog, or some names that were big names when I started playing,
Mhm.
but they just didn't quite have the firepower to take down the goats at the time. In my generation, like the 2010 era, I mean, Feldberg, arguably he could be considered in the GOAT, so maybe we should just take him out of it. But like he was one of those guys.
Mhm.
He won 1 world title, but without Kenny, without Barry, without Nate Dawson in the picture, he may have
Yeah.
been a multiple-time world champion. Steve Rico, that's a
Yeah.
name. Steve
Yes.
Rico would have been a world champion for sure. Like that guy was, I would say, like the biggest disappointment in Steve Rico's career is that he never won a world title. Josh Anthon, 4-time runner-up at the World Championships.
Oh my goodness.
Paul
I've heard his name, but I didn't realize it was that many. Wow.
Paul Ulibarri, 3 second
Mhm.
places at the World Championships. So there's a lot of people who've been knocking on that door and they just came up a little
Mhm.
bit short. Um,
So I was
you
thinking
know,
of like you, Nate,
for what?
Nico. Nico.
Maybe, yeah, Nico, sure, yeah. I'm sorry to make that face, but when the thing that held me back from growing as a player, as a competitor, was that my interest in the sport was always just in enjoying it and
Mhm.
trying to just really appreciate the lifestyle. And I'm very competitive naturally, and I was very gifted naturally, but like I wasn't as involved in taking care of the intangibles to put myself in position to be a world champion. It was like always one of those things like, yeah, I could play great enough to win, but like the people that are like world beaters, I call them, like the goats,
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
guys sacrifice so much to be in that position, and their philosophy quite literally revolves around the endeavor of being the best. And that was
Mhm.
never my focus. I wanted to be really great and I wanted to win tournaments, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice the parts of the game that would have made it so that I would have been in that position week in, week out. It just, I think I would have taken on a different persona altogether, and I don't know if I would have found it enjoyable. Maybe I would have. I
Mhm.
don't know. I'll have to question that for the rest of my life, I suppose. But I think that I'm looking at like certain personality types that fit into that like highly ultra competitive mindset where
Mhm.
winning quite literally is the only thing, and and everything else is losing. And to me, I've never looked at it that way. Um, I think Katrina Allen, 2-time world champion. Without Paige Pierce, we've got a 6-time, 8-time world champion, or something crazy like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's hard to know who would have emerged because somebody would have. You're right. Like there's always that need for the best, and when someone is close enough that they can taste it, they start to change themselves to fill into that void, into that need for the best, and then you kind of assume that role. And without having Macbeth, without having Wysocki in this last era, it's hard to really know who would have been that player. It's a
Mhm.
great question, though. I really appreciate the question.
I mean, because I think of it like some of you just said there was that Tiger Woods when he first come out. I came out here to win. Second sucks. That
Totally.
mentality you have to have to be that dominant. Juliana said about Katrina when you just said that she said when she first met Katrina, Katrina comes up to her. This was at like a Iowa Hall of Fame thing, and she goes, I'm going to break all your records."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's, and she goes, no, 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 no. Juliana said to me, she goes, "No, you need that mentality." And I was
Totally.
like,
If that's
"That's
what your
awesome."
goal is, you have to have that mentality, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't start doing that when you're 26. You have
Mm-hmm.
to have this, I'm going to be that player when you're 18 years old. You have to do
Mm-hmm.
what Gannon Burr's doing, making records now, and then be one of the few that can do something like that at an early age and prolong and sustain that for 10 years. And if you can do that, then you will be one of those names that is listed in those books. That will be the untouchables. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just recency. We've got Kristen Tatar, or Kristen Lett, excuse me. She comes into the sport and she makes this incredible splash. And
Mm-hmm.
the question that people like me, who have been around for a while, who've seen so many incredible players come and go, is she's doing this now, but she's doing this now in her 30s. She didn't start doing
Yep.
this in her 20s. Is she going to have the stamina to maintain when you start questioning yourself, when you start running into life's issues of like, how much longer can I do this? How much longer can I physically maintain this, mentally maintain this? Focus on family. Her daughter was getting older. So all these things,
Mm-hmm.
they're coming to a point where it's like, man, like, does this make me happy? And when it's all because you've been doing it since you were a teenager, it makes sense that you're pursuing that through your adult life. But when it's something that you come into later on in life, it's hard to just establish yourself and then just say, yeah, I'm going to do this for the next 15 years. And so as much of as a surprise as it was to see her success early on when she started dominating, it also wasn't that big of a surprise to see her struggle with the parts of the mental game that ultimately lead to a lot of players leaving the sport. And I know this wasn't directed at Kristen, but that's kind of why I feel like it makes a lot of sense for her to have chosen a happier lifestyle, to take what she was doing and say, this doesn't bring me that much joy right now. I still want to be a part of the sport, but as far as doing it on these terms in front of this many people with this much pressure expected on me every single week, this isn't fun. I don't want to do this right now. And so I respect her for listening to that side of her, because every player who's been doing this for a while runs into that at some point. And very few of us have backup options that we can just say, I'm going to pursue this other thing that makes me happy now. Like if you ever played poker, you've heard the term pot committed. And so many of us are pot committed to this sport. And it's just, like whether it's something that you want to pursue because your heart's telling you to, or it's because you don't know anything else and you don't know how you're going to make a buck any other avenue. This is my life. Like, disc golf will be my paycheck until I am retired. And it's something that I'm happy to say that I am looking forward to those years. But at the same time, like, I also don't have too many other options, like what? I don't want to be an accountant. I don't want to be I guess I could be a graphic designer. I could sell my 3D prints, like I could do other things, I suppose, but I want to do disc golf. And so anyways, this is taking so many different answers to your question. And that's just a typical podcast for me.
The great thing is I don't remember the question. One thing about Kristen, 2019 is when I first heard about her. Won U.S. Women's that year. COVID took basically 2 years away from her. And then she come back and just an absolute beast out there. So
yeah,
one of my friends back then,
Special.
she won a Grand Slam, greatest of all time. I'm like, let's pump the brakes a little bit on that.
That's the issue with that. The argument is that for me, LeBron James is my GOAT in basketball, even though I know Michael Jordan was the best basketball player of all time. No, I understand. Yeah, you're not going to know anyone in your life who's a more diehard UNC basketball fan. So the fact that Michael Jordan went to UNC, yeah, gotcha.
Wahoo.
You guys got your national title averaging 42 points a game. Congratulations.
It's a trophy.
Yeah, dude, honestly, hey, that defense was some of the most punishing defense I'd ever seen ever. And you guys were scoring about 5 3-pointers.
We got 50 points a game. Leave us alone.
Anyways, so as a Tar Heel diehard, Jordan naturally was my GOAT. Grew up loving basketball because of Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. But LeBron James has done something that no one will ever do in another sport that we'll ever see, ever. We'll never see anything like this. This won't happen in hockey. It won't happen. It's certainly not in football. It won't happen in baseball. Not to his level for that long of a period of time. And that to me is a huge metric of determining the greatest status. And so that's why Paige for me is the GOAT of disc golf. Especially, I mean, on the FPO side, there's no question to me, Paige is the GOAT. And when Kristen was emerging, you know, she had the intangibles to be the most skilled player we'd ever seen. And perhaps there's an argument that at her peak, she was the most skilled player we've ever seen. And maybe we'll see for a long time on the FPO side. I mean, just truly a level of play that was just unbeatable, it felt like. But that's one definition of greatest of all time. But then there's also the greatest where you have the most far-reaching impact. You have done it through injury, through thick and through thin. You've gone through the trials and tribulations of tour life for a decade. You know, those things add up to me because I know what it's like. I know the sacrifices that it takes to do something like that for a prolonged period of time. And why that makes someone greater to me is because you've been able to shake more hands, meet more fans, impact more people with more throws for more periods of time. You've gone through different periods of your life where your athleticism was at its peak and on the decline and still have maintained a top level. All those things factor in.
You're breaking up.
Oh, maybe it's because I'm getting excited. Can you hear me? Daryl? You hear me at all, Daryl, here? Are you seeing me?
It's very much kind of. It's kind of breaking up a lot.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm hearing that too.
Chet, is it breaking up as well?
Yeah, a little bit.
Should
I keep talking here? Maybe we can just roll with it.
It's like coming and going. Mine says I have strength over here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on my side.
Well, Road Tripping says it's on my end. It looks all right on my end.
Well, either way.
Well,
if you can't hear me,
I guess we'll. I don't know if you can hear me.
Kinda. Yeah, you're breaking up too.
That shows I've got plenty of strength. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No? All right. Well, I'll text him. I can give him a text.
Am I coming through on your side at all?
I'm hearing you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, now it seems to be working again. I don't know.
Well, to finish the point about all the intangibles, I just think that the longevity speaks volumes to me, and you know, it's very easy to get excited about a player who is doing some incredible things at the time that they're doing it, to think this is going to be the best player of all time. A very important metric to keep in mind while those players are having success is the metric of time. You know, like Gannon Buhr's trajectory right now is he very likely could be the best, most talented player we will ever see in the sport in our lifetimes. There's a good chance that he could do that. But there's questions as well. Can he maintain health? How much is his body going to change as he gets older? What kind of injuries will he run into, and will he be able to overcome them? Those are all things that we've seen Macbeth suffer from injuries, come back. We've seen Wysocki suffer from injuries and come back, you know, and do it for 15 years. And that to me is such an important part of determining the greatest of all time.
Yeah. I don't like the argument. I like just saying who is the best in their errors, because I mean I see no need, because I know a lot of people that'll be like Jordan is better. Anybody that likes LaFlop or stupid. I'm like, why you got to disrespect the man who does all he does?
LeBron has had arguably more of a far-reaching impact on the sport of basketball than Michael Jordan. You know, like Michael Jordan obviously changed what branding is. The reason I might have a logo, a big Jerm logo and a Lionheart logo, is because branding yourself as an athlete became a part of sports culture because of Michael Jordan.
Yep.
But he also wasn't ever willing to take a stance on social matters, and he never wanted to ruffle any feathers. And I don't know if I'm misquoting him, but I'd heard that he maybe one time said that even racists buy basketball shoes. So he never like denounced racist groups or ideologies of of any kind. And to me, like, that's just a coward's way out. And I'm not calling Michael Jordan a coward. I'm just saying, like, he was so focused on the business end of things, and he was so focused on being rich, and he had so many people in his ears saying, do this or don't do that, that he never just like, I never got to, know who Michael Jordan was. Like, who is Michael Jordan besides this great basketball player? You don't really know. And that's fine. That's his choice. He gets that option as a human being to let in or be vulnerable or not be vulnerable. But like, to me, the fact that LeBron would take risks and come out and say how he felt about things and open up organizations for kids that couldn't afford schooling and
That's the big one for me right there.
just he got involved in so many things. And to me, that's like such an important part of an athlete. Like, we are, at different levels, of course, like what I can do with my salary is very, very different than what people in big sports can do with their salaries. But like, what we do with our community, with our platform, says everything about what we're doing with our fame and our level of fame and what we can do to influence others in positive ways. And I don't feel like Michael Jordan did things to influence the community in positive ways other than just being a role model by his abilities. And it's very important to me that you do more than just be good at something, that you're actually in it for the growth of the world, and recognizing that sports bring people happiness and bring people together. And so by reaching out to people through sports, you are improving the world in your own way. You're making the world a better place.
Somebody on the podcast, one of my guests, at the end, I will ask you this as well if you have any questions for me. But they asked me, what would I do if I could to help the sport? And my response was, do what Paul Macbeth is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I see him going to Africa to put courses in New York City, Chicago, I guess he's going to put one in Ukraine, which still blows my mind to even think about at this time. But I mean, what he does, it motivates me, gives me chills just thinking that somebody would think that far ahead to grow in a sport like he does with the foundation. And I was like, that's what I would want to try to do.
Yeah, you're nailing the head there, Daryl. There's growing the sport, and any chance we'd ever have of our sport being in the Olympics, the sport needs to be global. It needs to be recognized and performed and played and competed at in multiple reaches of the globe. And right now, our sport is very, very popular in the places where it's popular, and it's pretty small pockets, and it's growing. It's growing in the Oceania area with the Tour Down Under that's happening in the winter months. It's happening in Europe on its own, and it's growing a whole new animal over there. And obviously, it's doing very well in North America. But our presence in South America, what is it? Where is it? In Africa, it's and aside from a few places in Asia, it's really not that big in Asia yet. So, like, if we want our sport to be global, we want our sport to really be something that can bring the best athletes from around the world to these events, then we have to do more of what Macbeth's doing and getting those courses exposed, because all we got to do is just inform and educate and provide access to play and give them discs to throw and let them appreciate the flight and let them appreciate the creativity that comes with different shaped discs at different weights and different conditions, and the different ways of solving these problems that occur, and giving them sport and giving them opportunity for recreation in a different way. It starts with people like Macbeth putting courses all over the world.
I'll tell you one thing. One issue I've run into is people just that don't play. They just go, well, anybody can do that. That's just so easy. I mean,
you run into that?
I could go out there right now and I could be the top 5 in the world. Like, well, get off your butt and try it. Let's see. I mean, you have people being disrespectful to you because you're a disc golfer.
No, I don't think so. I don't perceive it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If there is some intended disrespect, I'm not reading into it. And if they are, then I just kind of laugh because I have one of the best lives in the world. I do what I love, and I'm supported by my community, and I don't know what else you really could ask for. But the only time I think that I ever feel like a little bit of disrespect is a totally unintentional thing that people do just naturally. Mm-hmm. And they say, I play real golf. And I don't understand the necessity to differentiate by calling it real versus mm-hmm. just calling it golf.
Yeah.
Like if you say, hey, I play golf, guess what? I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know that golf and disc golf are 2 different sports.
I don't like the phrase ball golf either. I'm just saying.
No, I don't either. And I don't like it so much that when we play disc golf mm-hmm. on golf courses, mm-hmm. I have embraced my hatred of calling it ball golf. Mm-hmm. So I've shortened it to balf because people have shortened frisbee golf to frolf. And so when we're playing frolf on a golf course, I call it frolf balf. And then somehow the hatred on both of those cancels out, and then it's funny to me, and then I like it again. But yeah, we do play a lot of frolf balf on tour. But no, it's just golf. So when you say real golf, for some reason, to me, I can't help but feel like there is some sort of insinuation on a micro level that what I'm doing is not real. Mm-hmm. You know, like that's real golf. What you're playing is kind of a fake version of it. It's like it's not quite as respectable. I'm like, dude, like I enjoy the hell out of it. It takes an incredible amount of time and athleticism to do very well at it. Mm-hmm. And it's a living that I've provided for myself and so many others. Like that's pretty real to me, dude. You know? And so that's the only slight that I've ever felt. And I don't think that it's really intentional. And when it is intentional, then F you, man. I
mean, to me, it's like man, it's something that people have a passion for. You're not hurting anybody. So just let people live their lives and have fun. But
you know, that is such a good message, Daryl. I appreciate you saying that. That is something that I think I really started to appreciate on my own level when I got into board games, which I think I maybe had my nose up towards when I'd walk by gaming stores and see all the gaming nerds in there playing games and be like, you know, and then I like became a gaming nerd and I'm like, wait a second, this is awesome. Why was I judging people for doing what they love? You know, like who am I to ever say like, you're into that? Like I throw Frisbees at metal things. And
I'm also a comic book nerd.
Awesome. Awesome, dude.
As you can see my dyed disc back here.
Yeah, I love it. Like, and I had friends that used to like compete in like Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, and I would be like, cool, dude. Awesome. Actually awesome. Like you have found something that you like and you are passionate about it. Awesome. You know, like that's so cool that for me, nothing gets me happier in the world than seeing someone love the thing that they do.
Yep.
Like seeing a passion in someone else gives me passion for the thing that I do. Mm-hmm. It's the best thing in the world. That is what life is about as far as I'm concerned.
I remember I was at a comic book shop and they sold Magic the Gathering cards. And I would hear people I just roll my eyes at it. And now looking back, I'm like, what kind of a doofus am I?
Yeah, right.
You were having such passion over there. And look at me. I've got disc golf cards over here. Totally. I've got baseball cards. I've been a baseball card nerd my whole life. But and then later on, I was talking to my friends. I was like, you should have heard them. They were all happy and excited because they got some card that no one cares about. And then later on, I'm like, you know what? That brought a lot of joy to them. I'm an idiot.
Well, but then also what you got to appreciate in this scenario here, Daryl, that I think is really important is that you don't judge yourself for judging them. That was just a growth that you had to go through. Yes. And by going through that growth, you became more human. You got to appreciate that evolution in yourself and recognize, and that will help you identify when others might be falling into the same trap that you ran into, and maybe you can help educate them.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's a fantastic thing. That evolution is a really important part of life, because we are all well, maybe not all of us, but most all of the people I've ever known are guilty of judgment, and recognizing that judgment doesn't serve anyone and doesn't serve you, and then growing from that is what life is all about as well.
Except Planet Fitness, there's a no judgment zone there.
Oh, I haven't been in a gym in a long time. It's hard for me to get the references of gym quotes.
Yeah, I drove by one just yesterday, so that was exciting.
Oh, okay, there you go. Nice.
Let's see. I'm going to ask a couple questions from the chat. I meant to end this at an hour and 20 minutes. I'm always a slacker. Let me ask these, and then we'll get to that too, because that's very important toward the end here. Let's see. Where's it at? Spotty service. Yes, I know I had spotty service. What T-pads? What are your favorite kind of T-pads?
Concrete first and foremost. They have to be flat. They have to be, and by flat I mean flat to the ground, so level, and preferably oversized. I know that you run into some issues with how expensive they can be at a certain point, but T-pads are under. There's something that people don't put enough thought into, and they don't put enough effort into. They put a lot of effort into it, but they do it the wrong way. And I'm just sick and tired of long holes with T-pads that are irregularly short lengths, and then also have a little bit of a rise. Like even that much rise is a big difference, because your core is going up. And my biggest thing is that, we're all different shapes and sizes. We all have different stride lengths. We all have different top and bottom follow through weights. So like how much I follow through off the end of the tee box might be different than you, Daryl. But all of those things should be protected. Every single approach should be protected, as far as I'm concerned, within reason, of course, into the tee shot itself. There shouldn't be anything dangling at 6'4" when I'm 6'6". I shouldn't have to duck under branches or move through branches when that's not something that somebody who is 5'4" is dealing with.
I don't have to worry about that. No.
If I want to, if the tee pad's a rectangle here, if the tee pad is like my phone here, I should be able to approach it this way, or this way, or this way, and I shouldn't have to worry about if I'm coming at an angle. Am I dealing with branches and bushes, or the tee pad is raised on this side over here? Flat, long. Give me the same freedom as anyone else's run-up style, as anyone else's stride lengths, or anything else. So that's the most important thing. I do prefer concrete, and the second most favorite are the really short grass length turf that we use sometimes. There's a certain turf that we use on some of the Pro Tour tournaments that has an incredible grip, especially when they add that sand to it, that holds up even in the rain. And I think aesthetically, those are the most beautiful looking tee pads, but concrete is just tried and true, and I would say overall the best.
All right, there is one at Wade Park, and Chris from Road Trip and Disc Golf, we did a video down there, and I am not joking. This thing, you could literally park like a Winnebago on this thing. It was like 30 feet long. And I was like...
Was it repurposed from something else?
Apparently, I talked to the guy that put everything in. He said, we just had a lot of carpet left, so there we go. And I was like, James Conrad will like this tee.
He's the scapegoat for any tee-pad conversation. He
Poor
like,
James.
But you know what? His run-up has adapted to crappy tee pads and is actually pretty versatile. So when there is a crappier tee, I find myself like admiring James Conrad, because his run-up is so unique to himself that he's had to make those adjustments. So he's actually pretty versatile on those teeing surfaces. Whereas I am like, my run-up is like just a bit longer than most everyone else's in terms of just my stride length being longer, that it actually affects me a little bit more than James, because I haven't like put in exorbitant amounts of time into like changing it. And so like little steps up on the tee pads actually affect me, because I'm not so like hoppy and glidey with it like he is, you know. I'm my feet are like barely shuffling over the surface of the tee. And so my feet will hit those little rises on the tee box.
He is very smooth with the way it's like he just flows through there and just, I don't know how he throws that far, by the way.
Everything he does.
Amazing.
Man. Everything he does.
Yeah. Let's see. Another question we had was, what are your thoughts on the new bokeh?
Or bokeh. I think it's I think it's a great disc. It's something that I am still trying to work the ins and outs of, and it'll be interesting to see as future runs come out how they compare to the first runs and all that. But it's currently in my bag. I am hoping that maybe the next run, or maybe in a different variation of plastic, will be one notch more overstable, because currently I really like it for like really like hitting a lot of highs and then just watching it go wow and flat, and it'll drift just a little bit to the right with the backhand. But I would like to see something that's just a touch more overstable for forehand torque purposes. Because a couple times when I've tried throwing that disc, I've over torqued it just a bit, and it's reacted with a lot of understable action. And so I do like the disc though, and it's in my bag for good reason.
All right, forehand grip. I have the old forehand grip like that. I don't know if you can see it well.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Okay. What is your forehand grip?
Okay, so I have got the pistol grip, the 2 fingers straight, and it's pretty traditional as far as I'm concerned. My emphasis is I take the middle of my middle finger right here, like you can pinch it and you kind of exaggerate how it's kind of comes to a point in the middle. But that right there, I want to press that right into the wedge of the disc. Okay. So I want to have equal parts of my middle finger on the flight plate as the rim wall. Okay. And that way I feel like I have pressure going into the rim to give it that force for speed. But I also am able to control the angle of how I'm holding the disc with my thumb pressure because of the angle of where my middle finger is as well. Okay. So it's just firmly in the middle like that. Then the disc's rim, depending on if it's a driver, mid-range, or putter, is kind of sitting on this digit right here on my index finger. And it's wedged into that soft space between my thumb and index finger. And the pinch that I have is enough to indent the flight plate. See if I can get, I
can see that.
But it's not, you're not going to be able to take this disc from my hand, but it's not like, I'm not trying to like put a hole in the top of the flight plate or anything like that. And the emphasis is so that I can get my wrist back and create as much spin as I can at the point of the hit when the disc is being thrown and being launched out of the grip. The thing that changes the most in my throw from shot to shot is the arm speed, but not really the wrist speed. The wrist speed is kind of high on every shot that I take, because the idea is I want to get as much spin on the disc as possible to control how much skip, how it flies mid-flight and late flight, controlling the landing and all those kind of things. I can dictate that by how much spin I'm putting on it. But how fast the disc comes out of my hand is really dictated on how fast my elbow comes through my hip and how much shoulder strength I put into the throw. So the grip is pretty traditional. These fingers over here, they just kind of hang out. Sometimes they're rested on the rim. Sometimes they're kind of floating in the space between. I'm not that focused on it, honestly. Whatever's comfortable at the time. I would say probably more times than not, the ring finger is probably resting on that outer rim. But I don't really think about it. if I'm thinking about it, I'm not focused on the right things.
Yep.
So that's what I do. I've seen a lot of people go with this. They call it a power grip. Avery Jenkins did this for a long time. Nate Sexton kind of does the fingers curled action here. And some people do the stacked fingers where the middle finger is sitting on top of the index finger to get a little bit more pressure into that point where they're trying to rip the disc forward. Again, like I said before about the run-ups, we all have different sized body types, and our fingers and our hands are no different. And so what's comfortable for me is going to be different than what's comfortable for you. But for me, I employ the 2-finger because it fits comfortably for me. People who have a much broader finger width probably can only get their index finger in there, and they're going to have a tough time fitting the 2 fingers in there. If that's the case, then, there's nothing too wrong with the 1-finger grip. You got Andrew Marweed out there doing it. Gavin Babcock has got a 1-finger forehand, and those guys have great forehands. So I'm not going to disparage the 1-finger forehand, but for me, this is just what's worked over the years.
So I think I started doing mine like this was because I can't remember whose video I saw. They mentioned it, and I was like, well, let me try that. I feel like it comes out of my hand good, but I still have a little bit of the wobble, and then it flattens out and goes.
That's just not enough spin. So more spin you put on it, the more the disc wants to correct itself mid-flight and early flight. If you're seeing your disc still flutter going down the fairway before it finally catches a smooth flight, it's because you're throwing with off-axis torque, and that means that the disc is not coming out of your hand efficiently, and it's not coming out with enough spin. Do you know what I mean by off-axis torque?
I was going to let it go because I had no idea what it meant. I didn't want to be embarrassed.
No. It makes sense. It is kind of like, it's an overly wordy way of just saying, okay, so if I want to throw the disc at this plane and I want to throw it at this angle of release to match the flight of the ground or whatever, but then I come in with a much more aggressive nose angle, but my arm is coming in. It's kind of hard to do it while sitting down to show you, but I want to match the angle of the nose angle and the tail angle of the disc with the direction that my arm is going into the shot. Now, if my shot is coming in like, my arm is coming in like this and the disc is coming in like this, but it's also got this nose up and it doesn't match the angle that I come into the shot with, and I'm trying to throw it and a line drive, but it's coming up with nose up, it's going to be coming out wonky because it's not matching my approach angle. So you want to match the attack angle, and maybe it's a better word for it, the attack angle with the nose angle. And if those aren't similar enough, then your disc is going to be coming out with a lot of nose up or a lot of nose down, or with wobble and flutter because the things aren't matching and lining up. Gotcha.
So that would explain why I'm doing that. Okay.
It would help. It's something to I would set up a phone on a stand and do some zoom ins on, like, to the point where you can see like maybe just your midsection and the release, but you want to zoom in on that and get a super slow-mo frame rate to see and just memorize, okay, shot number 1 was okay, but shot number 3 was bad, and just get a series of them and watch them back and see if you can recognize the little micro nuances that are changing between throw to throw. And then you can adjust accordingly, because if you match that swing plane, that attack angle with the nose angle, you're going to get much better results. It's going to be much more efficient. It's going to come out faster. There's going to be less flutter. So the disc is going to be able to go on that approach angle and that the intention with much less resistance.
Okay. So slow-mo. Okay. I will actually do that because I got my phone. And this is what I record all my YouTube videos on. So, and doing it, having slow motion, I would definitely check that out, because
you got to.
Gosh, like I said, I wanted to be on for an hour. We're at an hour and 35 minutes. I got like 1,000 more questions.
People invite me on for their 30-minute podcasts all the time, and I just laugh. I'm like, that's not possible. Like, if you've ever heard me talk, it's just not possible to get short.
I will ask you this. Would you like to go longer? Would you like to be on again? You tell me, or would you like to stop now? What's your thought?
I do have some errands I have to run today, and we are running a bit long. So
Mhm.
I'll answer a question or two more for sure, and let's just see where it goes from there.
Okay, well, this is one that's going to actually go hand in hand with this question. Let me ask my question first, and then we'll go to this. What is the process for when you end one contract, and then you're like, "Where am I going?" Like going from Innova to MVP, and then goes into his question of how was your first year with MVP?
Okay, yeah. So two-part question.
Mhm.
I haven't actually ever ended a contract and didn't know where I was going.
Mhm.
So I can't necessarily answer that question in that way. Um, but I imagine that's a pretty scary um, proposition for any player. And it's something that many players have to deal with year in, year out, because these companies are getting more and more young players coming in and saying, "Hey, man, I'm going to be great. And I have a great resume, and you should sponsor me now before it's too late." And, and it's a very difficult business as a manufacturer to know who you should make your investments with. But fortunately for me, I've just been set up just well enough that every time that a contract is coming to an end, I've either been able to renegotiate an extension with that company and continue the relationship, or I had other things lined up ready for me so that if I were to end that contract, I wouldn't just be in that twilight or that no man's land,
Mhm.
which is a very scary place to be as an athlete of any sport. But I would say that like you just you, a lot of one of the most common questions you get asked as a sponsored player is, "What can I do to get sponsored?" And that answer is an evolving answer. It used to just be play more tournaments, get yourself out there, get recognized because you're playing
Mhm.
great, and so on and so forth. And that answer isn't the same nowadays. It's much more entangled with social media presence and doing external things that bring attention to your involvement in the sport and how you promote disc golf and how you are influencing the community for the better. And that can be through social media, but it can also be through so many other ways. And it really is an open-ended question now, is like
Mhm.
what you have to ask yourself as a potentially interested sponsored players: what do I bring to the table? And if you can answer that question with a good answer, then I would say, then send that letter, send that resume in, and send that video in to the companies and say, "Hey, my name is this, and here's what I bring to the table. I am a blah 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 rated player. I started playing then. My, whatever that is, it's gonna be different for every single person, and explain why you deserve that time." The other way would be just be naturally recognized for your skills, which is something that I'm constantly doing. Personality and playing ability are two things that I'm always looking for in a person that has influence with the companies that I'm sponsored by. So, and that, I guess, will lead to the next question: was how was my first year with MVP? There's so many ways to answer the question, but they're all great. The only thing that wasn't stellar was my play was bad, and it was bad because of a lot of good reasons. I was injured in three separate ways that prolonged for, was it 2.5, nearly 3 months of the year. I wasn't able to play, and it was for different reasons each time, and never really was able to get into the swing of things. And I wasn't really able to learn how to compete with my new bag on the top level, because the top level courses challenge you in a different way. And so by the time I came back in, I was a bit battered and bruised and trying to catch up to people who were in mid-season form. And so I always felt like I was up against it in that regard. So playing wise, it wasn't my best year. And I think anyone who's looked at my career and looked at my stats in the past could recognize that quite easily. But that's nothing to do with the discs itself. Is more about just me being an older, aging athlete and facing different things as I get older, and having to find ways to work around that and adjust so that I don't deal with that moving forward into the next couple of years. But as far as a company goes, working with MVP has just it's just been a dream. The people at the company are awesome, and the team manager is a friend of mine that I get along really well with, and he's really fun to be the guy that I talk to for questions. The discs have been awesome. The tempo has just been such a cool thing to be a part of that project. and commemorating my late best friend Dog Jackson, who passed away in 2024, with the stamp with the dragonflies, was a really cool thing. And just been a blast. So I mean, the company itself has got a really incredible fan base, and I didn't really know how serious that was until I went on the road this year and showed up at the fly marts, and the people came out. And like, I never remember anyone ever saying like, I am so glad that you're on Team Innova, or I'm so glad that you're on Team Prodigy, or I'm so glad you're on Team Discraft, and other companies I've been sponsored by. They may have thought that, but I don't feel like I ever heard anyone come up to me and say those lines directly. I must have had 10 people at every event I went to or more say, dude, I am so happy you're on Team MVP. Like, I didn't know that people really cared one way or the other, but people care. And I found that out this year. So that was a really cool thing, was being a part of a completely different fan base that I think is a little bit more excited about their brand than anything else I'd ever experienced.
I mean, like when I look at the communities now, I see MVP and Discraft, their fans are gone crazy the last 2 years in a very positive way, mind you, not insane, but it's just those two fan bases have really exploded.
Yeah,
and it's really cool to see. But me being a complete mixed bag, I will tell you this: when I heard you were going over there, I've tried MVP and all those, and I found they are the most different from all the other companies for me. Was it an easy transition? Yep. Gyro.
It's funny that I'm actually pointing to the disc that is like the one disc that doesn't have gyroscopic qualities to it.
Is that Axiom?
No, yes, it is Axiom. But the Pyro, I think Chad or Brad recently stated that like the Pyro's gyroscopic effect is not as dramatic as it is with other discs, because the weight on the rim is actually more similar to the weight of the plastic in the disc than any of the other discs. But anyways, the gyro technology does add an element of newness to flight that takes some adjusting to, for sure. So yeah, I mean, that has been an adjustment, honestly. Like, I remember thinking when I left Discraft and I went to Prodigy in 2013 that it wasn't going to be a big deal that I was leaving behind the Meteor and the Buzz in the zone for my forehand approach game. And I realized quickly that all discs aren't made the same.
Yep.
And that a disc does have a flight characteristic and a speed, but it's more than that. I used to think that a disc was made up of those two things, a speed and a flight characteristic. But there's a third thing that's really important as well, and that is the ergonomics and the way it fits in your hand. Because if a disc doesn't fit in your hand when you're throwing a forehand, or if the rim wall is too open and too pronounced, it will slide out of your hand when you're throwing your forehand, and you don't get that catch that creates that pop. And so I found myself struggling with all but one of Prodigy's mid-ranges when I was throwing forehands. And so I just leaned into the M4, the only disc that I really could throw. Now, since then, they've opened up a whole new line. They've got a bunch of discs that work well for forehand, but their initial disc offering didn't really work for my forehands. And for the first time in my life, my forehands were fluttering. And I was wondering, am I broken? Like, what's going on? And I realized that just not all discs are meant to be forehanded. They're not designed that way. And when I switched from Prodigy to Innova, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to find a mid-range that I can forehand. And I just couldn't really do that either. It was only a few, and it was really the only discs that I could forehand that were mid-ranges were the overstable ones. And some of the stable ones, but none of the understable things really flew well for me forehand-wise. And that was really frustrating, because that was a part of my game that I was really proficient at when I was with Discraft. And then I came to MVP, and then all of a sudden, wow, okay, cool, mid-ranges that I can forehand again. Incredible. Like, their mid-range lineup is the only company that's ever been anywhere close to what MVP makes is Discraft, in my opinion. And I don't think that anyone's even close to it, honestly. I don't think Dynamic or Latitude or Innova or Prodigy make really good discs from understable to overstable that can be forehanded with a lot of torque very consistently well. I think they do a lot of other great things, but as far as like one of my strengths is my forehand mid-range game. So it makes sense that I'm with MVP, the company that I think does it better than anyone else. But these are things that you just have to find out through trial and tribulation, trial and error, and trials and tribulations as well on the road. But yeah, but learning a bag, it takes time. It takes time. I mean, every single time you switch companies, if you ever are lucky enough to get sponsored and then you get sponsored by a different company, it's not as simple as just plug and play.
Yep.
It's just the archer. It's also the arrow a little bit too, and then the archer takes over, once you've put your time in.
How much do you find that, for example, you have a disc, whatever one, and then you get another of that same disc, and you're like, okay, well, this isn't flying exactly the same.
Oh, all the time. And it's happened with every company. And it usually happens with the high-speed discs.
Mm-hmm.
When you have all the weight on the rim and very little weight in the flight plate, the disc becomes very volatile in its stability. And so you run into a ton of fluctuations. There's this tiniest little thing can make the hugest difference. So that's you're not safe from that no matter what company you go to. That's something you run into. And so that way, when it stinks to say it this way, but when you do find a run of disc you like, you buy 10, buy 20 of them. Like, don't take the chance that you think they're all going to be like this forever. You just don't know.
Yeah, I got a Katrina Island sail, and that first edition of them, I'm like, man, these things are so good. And then I got a later one, I'm like, what is this? This isn't even the same disc. I talked to Katrina one day. I was like, hey, do you happen to have any of these? She's like, no, I just recently lost my last one. They're selling some. Like, no, they're not the same as these.
It's
great.
Plastics, you have to control things to such a high degree, and some of those things you're not even in control of completely. Like, I don't know if I would imagine like the MVPs, if you will, the fan base know this, but Chad and Brad, they came into the sport through plastics. Their father owned Maple Valley Plastics, and they were plastic manufacturers by trade that found disc golf, fell in love with disc golf, and said, we can do this. We understand plastics. The other plastic manufacturers are disc golf lovers that said, we should learn plastics. There's a completely different approach when you come to those things. And one of the things that I got to find out through my tours of the factory is the level of quality control at MVP is higher and more. They're more rigorous about things than any company I've ever seen. They do tests that I would have never thought of, and I'm guessing other companies haven't thought of either. But they are testing things down to the nano. Like, they have lasers that are checking things for quality control purposes that they're obsessed with it. And so they're able to put a product out into the world that they are pleased with a lower a lower degree of error than other companies can, and they can prove it with the test that they take. So I find that pretty interesting.
My friend Chris, his whole bag is MVP Axiom Streamline, and his comment, and you laugh at me for buying so many of the same run.
Smart.
I laugh at everybody for that. No,
I mean, it is kind of funny when you look at your garage like I do now, and I've got 2,500 discs that I don't know what to do with. I mean, it might be more. I don't know.
I can take some of them.
I would love for you to. And that's why the pressure of running these whatnots is coming in, and I will probably be doing more of those moving forward.
I will let you go, even though let me ask one last question.
Right.
And I literally just realized we never even talked about USDGC championship, but that's not the question.
Okay. All right.
If you have, if you decided this is my last round, this is my last tournament, and you could pick the card mates, who would you pick? That's the question I ask everybody, just because I think it's such an interesting question.
I gotta have Nate and Yuli on there. I feel like that's kind of. I'm gonna make this a fivesome, by the way. I'm gonna have Nate and Yuli, just for the history of what we've been able to do with Jomez and all the practice rounds we've had. there's not many people that have seen more of my shots and have more history there. I might take Paige Pierce with me on that round. She's just such a hype man. Like, she's just awesome, and she's always been one of my biggest fans. And we have 2 mixed double world title championships together.
Oh, that's awesome.
In 2015 and 2016.
And she's on your profile picture, by the way.
Yeah. that was when we were in the middle of winning the 2015 mixed doubles world championship.
Oh.
And then to finalize the card, bro, that's tough, man. There's just so many people that I want in that last spot. It's a tough one, because do I go with like a Zach Melton who's just going to make me mad the whole time by giving me a hard time? Do I go with a Kevin Jones because he's just the ultimate hype dude? Like, the guy gets so pumped up about everyone's shots. He's just always fun to play with, always a competitor. Do I
wonder what he would be like without coffee.
I don't know.
That'd be scary.
I don't know, man. Do I go with like a Paul Macbeth, to have the presence of greatness, but always just a consummate professional, a guy who I've always enjoyed playing with, someone who's always been able to not just make the round about themselves, and to be able to, like, even in the middle of playing great, able to have conversation that's like funny and pertinent to what's going on, and appreciate good shots and give dap to good shots, even when you're in competition with them. I love that. Do I go with a guy like Simon, who's just going to be entertaining because he's just a constant entertainer? Do I go with like Brian Schweberger, who's always been a huge role model for me and always fun to play with? There's so many good answers to that question. Do I take Henry Childress, my best friend, the best man at my wedding? I was his best man at his wedding. I met at the very first PDJ tournament I ever played, and just been there with me forever. My roommate for several years. There's just so many good answers to that question. So I'm gonna say that there's just the essence of all of them there with me in that final round. But man, going into what you knew would be the final round would be one of the most emotionally devastating 3-hour endeavors I think you could possibly go through, because it's just how much it's meant to me in my life.
Yeah. I don't even know if I was on a pro tour and I played as long as you have, I don't even know if I could finish the round. I like, how can I throw with tears pouring out of my eyes?
I've played with a player who was a really great player and decided at that time that they were done, and that they were retiring from competing in professional golf. And it was like one of those things that you couldn't hardly believe, because of how much it means to us to know that you're going into this last round is something that, like, it's courageous, it's vulnerable, it's like a little bit confusing, like knowing yourself so well that you could say that definitively, that that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was an emotional round, and there were tears coming down their eyes, and it was infectious. I mean, like, we were all like there with them emotionally. It was powerful.
Okay, I'll add one last question. How do you play when you have a player on the card that is very disruptive? I'm not going to say any names, but a player that's very disruptive. Because I've heard you on some tell somebody like, "Hey, stop it." Again,
no, yeah. I mean, you just have to be brave, and just recognize that you are every bit as deserving to have the environment that's fair for you than anyone else. And so if someone is infringing on that fairness of your round, that you have to respect yourself, and respect the card mates, respect the sport. Really, you're respecting the sport by saying something. And so there's ways that you can recognize and be empathetic, and I wouldn't say allow, like it's like something that I'm permitting, but be empathetic to an individual's situation, and recognize that we don't always know what's going on in their life, and that That is important up to a certain point. And then you recognize this has gone too far. You are not recognizing that you are infringing upon my fun and my competitive ability. You're making this about you. And then at that point, when you, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, why haven't I said anything? It's gone too far. And it's time to say something. And that's typically when I do. When I find myself saying, this guy is taking a minute and a half on every throw, every single throw. Why are you taking so long? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm focused on this and not what I need to be doing as a player. So that's unfair. And that has crossed the line at this point. Now, if this happens again, I will be mentioning it. And if it's a temper tantrum issue, at a certain point, you say, okay, man, I feel you. I've been there too. It sucks. Let's move on now. Let's go ahead and move on, because now we're playing your round and we're not playing our round. And so you just have to trust it, that what you're doing is what's best for you. It's not just a selfish thing. There's a part selfishness to it, but there's also a part of just like fairness to the game. And you're also, one of the things that I will say from my own personal experience of being called out for courtesy violations or called out for other infractions throughout my career is I had a high level of respect for that player for doing that. And it straightened me out and it illuminated a flaw in my game. And it gave me something to work on and grow from. So you're not only doing yourself a favor, you're doing the other player a favor, even if they do have a poor attitude about it and retaliate. If they are a human worth anything, they will reflect on that moment and they will make changes.
I remember Brody Smith. He said he's never going to call anything on anybody because then they're just going to stare at me the whole round, just waiting for me to do the tiniest little thing. And I'm like, you got to call it for two reasons. One, it's the game. It's part of the game. You have to do that. But second, it's workplace environment. You have to be able to do your job, and that's part of your job.
Totally. Like Brody has a lot of hot takes that are controversial, but he's also got limited experience in our sport. And that's, he provides a really interesting perspective in that he had a very fast rise to prominence with the fame that he had coming into our sport. And so he had a lot of attention, and his, he has the podcast with Yuli and all that. And so he's obviously going to have a lot of ears on him, but he also, he brings up interesting points sometimes because he has a fresh perspective. He doesn't have to deal with the history of our sport. I wouldn't say deal with, but like he doesn't quite have that same approach to a lot of things. And sometimes you have to question, are we doing things the way we're doing them just because it's the way we've always done them? Or are we doing them because there's a good reason behind it? And he brings in a little bit of that dynamic of like, oh, we can question things because here's a perspective that we haven't looked at yet. But that's a bad take. I disagree with that take thoroughly for the reasons that you said, and because of the obvious reason. You have to call the game because it's bold. It's not easy to do it. You have to do it because it's not easy to do it. Because people have that attitude in the back of their head. I don't want to do it because they're going to be looking at me. Well, then you're admitting that you might be violating those rules also. Like if you're playing the game the way it should be played, none of us are going to be calling rules because your foot made the disc move like that. Unless you do it every single shot, and then you're not really paying much attention to what you should be doing anyways. So like all these things, there's levels to it. Some people say, if you see it, call it no matter what, every single time. I don't agree with that either. I think there's certain levels to it. I think that there's an amount of like reading the room, reading the situation, and recognizing that like if a player is trying their best and they're playing within the spirit of the rules, then, if someone is like an exaggerated situation, there's cars honking and like all of a sudden people are moving around and the wind is blowing like crazy, but it's gusty and you take 40 seconds to throw a shot. I'm not sitting there being like 30 seconds, like we all get a little bit of leeway within some sort of interpretation of it. And so, but if someone's being egregious with it, I'll usually give a player like a little bit of a heads up, like, hey man, like you got to watch that foot fault thing. You keep kicking your disc, like give yourself an extra couple inches, bro. Like you don't need to put your foot right behind the disc, and I'll give them a little heads up. And then if they keep being unaware of what they're doing, then we're not putting the same care and attention into the shot, and therefore you are playing a slightly easier version of the game than I'm playing, and that's not fair.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we gonna stop now, even though there were so many things we didn't hit, including USDGC, which, yeah, hopefully we can have you back sometime because it would be awesome. I will tell you what, me and my friend Chris, we were talking. It's like, it'd be so cool to one day go down to Charlotte and get a round in with you. That would be absolutely awesome. But if not, that's cool too.
Hit me up, man. Hit me up. I'm typically taking the winters off, but I still play, of course. I still play, but yeah, it's a good time for me to get some good rest and relaxation and get busy with my graphic design and my 3D prints and all that, because it's something I love doing when I'm home. We're here in my 3D print room. It's currently active. You can see all my filaments behind me that I use to make my 3D minis, and there's more behind me as well, over here as well. So the off season is a great time for me to get a little bit of that R&R that is so important. It's hard to get when you're on the road for 8 months a year.
Yeah, me and one of my friends, we went to I went to Greensboro, then I went to USDGC, and then I was back here for the Players Championship. And me and one of my friends were like, how do they do this for 8 months? Especially like the month, almost 2 months in Europe.
It's a skill. It's a skill.
I think of the Europeans that have to come here and do it for like 6 months.
It wears you down, man. I didn't see my bed for 7 straight months this year. I've never gone that long without returning home, but 7 months without seeing my bed, and it took a toll on me for sure. I was burnt out, in July, so like typically I want to find myself like getting tired come August, because then I get a little bit of excitement knowing that, oh man, we're only a month away from getting home. But if you're burned out in like July, it's going to be a tough summer. Yeah. Somebody
actually asked this question. Jerm, sell me your KP2s.
Yeah, I know, Colton. I got you, buddy. Thanks for watching today. I plan on getting around to that, dude. It's in my list of things to do, and that's a long list. But you keep being persistent, and you'll get my KP2s, dude.
There you go. I always tell people this. You can give people pretty much anything, but when you give them your time, that's the one thing you can never get back. And so I always tell everyone, thank you so much for sharing your time with me and the people watching. It means a lot to us. It really does.
It means a lot to me too, Daryl. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you so much. And check out MVP Sports, OTB, MVP Sport. Is it MVP Sports Discs?
Disc Sport.
Disc Sport.
Yeah, Disc Sports. Yeah. like checking around the room. Yeah, Disc Sports. Yeah, okay, I got the disc station over here.
And OTB, check them out because they are only the best.
That's right.
But again, thank you so much. Anything else?
Happy holidays, everyone. And if you are lonely during this holiday season, Christmas Day, Scott Stokely has a little podcast that he does to just give everyone a little bit of community. And Jules and I will be joining that at some time. It's been posted what time we're going to be on there. So just look out for that. Be kind. Be patient with people. In general, everyone's trying their best. And just keep spreading the love, everyone.
Yep. Especially all those people at stores and restaurants and stuff. Be respectful of them. They're under a lot of stress.
That's right.
So, Big Jerm, thank you so much. And I will be seeing you. And you know what? I will be texting you. And maybe we can get around in some time.
Sounds good, man.
All right. And you guys have an incredible day.
See you.